Okay, I think we are live. We're having some issues on my end, of course. If people can hear me, just let me know in chat. There we go. We're live. Okay, welcome to a new episode of All Things Xbox Podcast. The technical issues, I think, have been sorted. Once again, I have Logan with me this week. Logan, how you doing?
Doing pretty good, Jamie. It's another week in paradise. Fall weather, sports going on, lots of good games. So many games you can't eat. You're just losing track and drowning in them, frankly. And then Tokyo Show coming soon. It all around pretty good. How about you?
Yeah, it's been pretty good here. The weather's finally cooling down, which is bloody lovely. It's been excruciating over the past couple of months. I'm not gonna lie. I'm from the northeast of England. I like the weather being, cold, maybe damp, and just generally depressing. Normally, I find that weather really nice. But hey, it's getting there. It's been an interesting few days. As people might know, I'm getting into wrestling again. WrestlePalooza happened the other day. By the way, that is the dumbest name for anything ever. Um, I have to say, for a company that they hyped up this event like it was the new WrestleMania, and I could not be more disappointed if I tried. Like everything was predictable. Triple H came out at the beginning saying, because all of the pay-per-views are now going to be on ESPN in the US, so they were hyping this up. They were saying this is going to be, a big change for wrestling. You're going to be surprised with everything coming. There was no surprises. Nothing really happened. The most predictable fights happened. The most predictable wins happened. And honestly, if I was ESPN, I'd be asking for my money back. Uh, but yeah, I need to watch AEW at some point. I keep hearing it's better. I don't even know where you watch that in the UK. I'll have to check. But I will say this: WWE, they have to get their act together because everything is predictable. It's boring, and like they have the same matches every week. And if they don't, at least it feels that way. And as someone like, bear in mind, I am basically one of the main demographics that company's trying to get at the minute, right? People that stop watching, but hey, it's on Netflix now, so I have a reason to watch it. It's on at a time where I'm up because I'm a night owl, and in the UK to watch WWE in the past, you had to subscribe to Sky Sports, and that's overly priced, especially if you don't really watch sports. But anyway, my point is, as someone's trying to get back into it, boring, predictable, and people that you think that should be champion and being pushed, they're not. There's a guy called LA Knight, has excellent mic skills, is a great wrestler in the ring, no push whatsoever. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing? But outside of wrestling, everything's all good. Logan, it's been a busy week. What have you been playing?
I've been playing a random kind of mix of stuff. I've been playing Pokemon Go some more. Been really enjoying that as my casual kind of just low key like I'm out and about kind of game. Been playing that. Doom 2. I am towards the end of the one of the expansions like the Hell is Us or like the Hell on Earth. Sorry, Hell is Us is a game that I'm about to play. Um, Expansion, and I'm on the like Barrel of Fun mission where you basically have to run for your life around all these barrels while barons and mancubuses and other things are shooting, death beams at you while you're trying not to get blown up by the barrels. It's kind of terrifying. Been doing that and about to start on Chronos New Dawn. I've been really excited to play that. It looks awesome. Can't wait. About to start that. And also been playing a little bit of the Altars. I'm in the final act, and that game has such a good story, and I really enjoy it. But to be honest, I am just so bad at survival mechanic games for
Yeah.
some reason. Like shooters, like put me on legendary mode, I'll solo it and I'll be just fine. And RPGs, yeah, like I love RPGs. I get them. I dig them. I love all kinds of them. But for some reason, I am just like I don't know, barely elementary when it comes to survival mode type games, and it's just like I wish they would have a story difficulty on this game in particular because I love the story so much, but my gosh, is it tedious some of the survival stuff. But overall, enjoy the game, and yeah, that's my gaming content. How about you, man?
Just remember before I get into what I've been playing. So does the alters not have like any story difficulty mode or easy mode at all?
It has one where it's a little bit easier, but it's not like an easy, like a, oh, don't worry about this, or that. It's taken care of, or just bare minimum, just like, okay, yeah, just make sure the lights are on or something like that. That you still have to grind for stuff, and you still have to run around and hope these invisible blob amoeba things don't sap all your energy, or radiation magnetic storm doesn't completely cripple your base, or your alters are just disgruntled about everything and can't be made happy no matter what you do, and they start revolting. It gets really obnoxious even on an easier difficulty. Like there's not a easy difficulty for that.
Because I think I'm like you. I don't really like micromanagement in games. Like the second I'm put into a game where there's a light crafting mechanic, and I have to just like go through tons of menus and basically manage a bunch of things, that's where my brain turns out. Like, I just can't do it. I'll say it tunes out. It's like I loved the gameplay in State of Decay too. But looking after a base and people, that's just like I can't do this. you know,
Yes,
it's way too
and
much
it
for me.
reminds me of. Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say it reminds me of the famous story with Brutal Legend.
Oh yeah,
Everybody's like, dude, heavy metal and like God of War type game, like the old school hack and slash, and like 360 era, action game with heavy metal and all this stuff. Awesome. And then they threw in a whole bunch of game mechanics midway or towards different acts that completely changed the game, and you're like, what is this? I did not want this.
yeah. I mean, for people that don't know, that was a weird one because with Brutal Legend, you played the game, and it's like really cool action. You've got all this like rock and metal music, and then what? About 75% into the game, it just all of a sudden turned into an RTS. And I like RTS games, but when I play an RTS game, I know what I'm getting into. I know what I'm playing. But that was an action game that just randomly decided to change genres. Um, and like dealing with menus and stuff, I just can't be bothered. So I completely get that. And the thing is, I want to get to the altars soon. It looks like a really cool concept. It's just if I have to battle menus. And by the way, you mentioned the difficulty thing. I have noticed a lot of people have been complaining. I'm not even complaining. I'd say critiquing a bunch of games lately that haven't really had a wide variety of difficulty modes.
Hmm.
I think Hell is Us that has a bunch of difficulty modes. I saw a bunch of people wanting a more story focused mode where there's less combat. I think these developers, unless you play an Elden Ring 2, you know, I think these developers should put in just a wide variety of difficulty modes on modifiers because some games let you change up everything. I talk about this game every so often called Star Trucker, and in that game you can literally customize everything about difficulty. Like how much damage you receive on impact, everything like that. I think more games need to do that. I know it's extra development time, but I mean, it just gets more people playing these games. But let's get into what I've been playing because it's actually been a busy week. Shocker to no one, Final Fantasy 16. I finished the first expansion. Oh my god. I've been talking about this game non-stop for 3 months, and I've said, hey, this is an easy game. Let me tell you, I was almost in tears playing that expansion. Not because of story, because of difficulty. My god. My hands hurt so much after that final boss fight in the expansion. I literally had to, like, grab some peas from the freezer. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, my hands were hurting. So that was fun. But thankfully, the second expansion so far isn't actually, that difficult. But I'm loving that game. I've also been playing Hard Space Shipbreaker again. It's just a relaxing game. I highly recommend people play it. For people that are interested in Final Fantasy, like I was just saying, I think it's 40% off on Xbox Live at the minute because a new sale started today. So people want to check that out, highly recommend it. And next up, and this is a game I've been talking about for months now, and it's called Jump Ship. Now, I did get a review code provided to me, but with that aside, by the way, I do not take review codes basically ever for early access games. I like to have the games more complete. I like to have the achievements there. Basically, I like to have a complete product because some games, unfortunately, don't exit early access. One I was looking forward to in the past called Valheim. It's been in early access for like 5 years. And as much as I was looking forward to that game, I'm not going back to it till it leaves early access, and we don't know when that's going to happen. However, this developer, they've talked about all that early access stuff and when it's leaving early access. So, now, for people wondering, watching at home, you'll see gameplay during this show of, third-person spaceship combat and then first-person on-foot combat. That's Jump Space. So, Jump Space is a first-person sci-fi game where you go out on missions. It has some extraction elements. You can play it in solo or co-op. It's a mission-based game. The zero-G elements. The story is very light. The galaxy's been overrun with these robots, and it's your job to kind of stop them. Kind of generic, but if you think about more sci-fi stories, they are in a way. And Jump Space, it's just fun. People have asked me, like, how does this game play solo? Because for people that don't know, in Jump Space, you completely manage this starship. Basically, how much power do, weapons have, shields have, engines have. And you can actually turn off power to engines and just increase power to shields, that type of thing. There's gun turrets which people can control. But the cool thing about this game is that you can have a player flying around in the ship, and you can have other players literally standing on the hull, firing at enemies. So if you're playing from their perspective, I can imagine you'd get pretty sick, because that would just be completely weird. But it's just a really fun game. It costs $19.99, and you get a crap ton of content. So I have the list right here, because, and bear in mind, when it comes to early access games, I'm going to start reviewing them over multiple weeks, rather than just over one podcast, because, it's a fun game. Anyway, so the game consists of 9 mission types, some of which consist of extraction-style modes. There's 50 plus playable sectors. This basically means different kinds of missions you can go on. So, while there's 9 different mission types, there's basically over 50 missions. There's a lot of content there for $20. The galaxy is split up into 4 different regions. There's 2 different ships which you can play in. There's 26 ship components which you can manage, which is really cool. And as we were saying earlier on in the show, I don't like micromanagement. This game, it does it really well. There's not really a ton of stuff to manage, and as someone that's playing it solo, it's pretty easy, not going to lie. Each sector is set up and spread out into different difficulty modes, so if you want to play basically easy, there's the sectors listed as easy mode, and normal mode, hard mode, insane, all that type of stuff. There's 8 different player weapons. So far, I've only controlled. I've only used 3 of them: the handgun, the shotgun, and the rocket launcher. You get them fairly early on. There's 16 ship enemy types. There's 11 enemy types that are on the ground. So far, I have to admit, it's a fun game. Now, I'm going to go over everything that's coming in the early access version. I should say, after the early access version is basically done. So, Chapter 1, The Resistance, is what happens when the game leaves early access. It gets more story. In Chapter 2, it's called Atreus Strikes Back. This is happening in Q1 2026, where it's going to get an endless mode, text chat, a new gun, new hangar vendors, melee weapons, offline support, a ship shield revamp, which is great because I think the way shields are done in the game is terrible. Sector modifiers, so you're going to be able to change the difficulty, basically custom everything you want in a new sector. You're going to have a lobby browser, which if I thought I had one already, but it turns out it doesn't. They're going to add more sectors to the game. They're going to expand on the story, add a new ship. Now, oh, by the way, if you play this game solo, you have a little robot that goes along with you. So it'll actually fire at enemies, destroy enemies, locate loot for you, that type of thing. They're going to improve the little robot. They're going to add more components to the ships. They're going to add a player trait system, a slide movement system, which is kind of funny because before I saw this list, I keep trying to slide in the game. Maybe it's all the Call of Duty I play. They're going to add new kinds of enemies, a photo mode, and then different mission types. In Chapter 3, which also happens in Q1 2026 onwards, they're going to add another gun, more sectors, a first-person view for piloting the ship, a revamped scanner mode, thank God. They're going to expand the story even more, add more mission types, voice chat, a new ship, different weapon variants, new enemies, and ground bosses. And they say, Chapter 4 is going to have, it just says, say, a question marks. So far, the game's having a lot of support, which is great to see. I think over 200,000 people were playing it on Steam, which is bloody good. It's a brand new indie game made by an indie developer, self-published by an indie developer, of a very small team, and they're listening to all the feedback that people are giving them on social media. It's just great to see. So as an early access game, I think it's a lot of fun. If you want to play it solo, you're going to have fun with it. If you want to play in a squad of 4, I think you're going to absolutely adore this game because there's going to be so many different possibilities for gameplay styles. You're going to have different people managing different parts of the ship. Honestly, as someone that does not play early access games, it's pretty damn good. Not going to lie. Logan, I know you're interested in this game. Is there anything you want to know about it?
Yeah, it sounds awesome. So you can play fully solo if you want to.
Oh yeah. So basically, when the game starts, after you do the prologue, it'll put you into this sort of hangar bay where you can upgrade your ship and buy things from vendors. If you play solo, you just select missions, you go from there. However, if you want, you can call people into your lobby, kind of like other multiplayer games. But if you play solo, you have this little robot alongside you, an NPC that'll fight alongside you. So it'll actually help out in combat, and it actually does a lot more damage than I thought it was going to be. But yeah, you can play solo, and I'm doing normal style mission types at the minute and easy, and it's perfectly fine.
Okay, that was my main question because I had interest in this game. It looked awesome, and I was thinking of picking it up. But you know how some games will it's like it'll either not let you play solo, or if it does let you play solo, you're basically hosed if you play by yourself because then it's like, oh my goodness, this mission is designed for 4 human competent players, and you're trying to one and done this yourself. So it's not like that.
Oh
Okay.
no. So I'll go over one of the mission types which I really enjoyed. So basically, you hyperspace to a sector, you select a mission, and basically it said at the top of the screen, you need to find 3 pieces of scrap. So on the map, it actually showed you where these pieces of scrap were. When you approached them, enemies would come out of the walls and the ceiling and stuff, which were pretty easy to take care of. It's not like a difficult game, but then again, I am doing normal and easy mission types at the minute. But basically, you pick up these components, you take them to the ship, and then after you do the quest, shall I say, it'll give you a bonus objective, so you can go further into an enemy ship and get more components for more points, more money. There's a resource in the game called materia, which is basically how you buy stuff. It's kind of like a crafting component, and the crafting mechanic in the game. And I know I might be scaring a lot of people off when I say crafting mechanic. It's not like a crafting mechanic that you'd think. Basically, there's this vending machine looking thing on your ship where you basically just buy things, and that's how crafting works in the game. If you want 4 ammo packs for your ship, you just literally go to the vending machine thing, click ammo pack, and that's how you do it. So what they've done in the game, it's super easy. It's very intuitive. For a game where you can manage different starship systems, Uh, and bear in mind, I'm the nerd that tried to play Sea of Thieves solo at launch. Right? Do you know how difficult that was? Piloting
Your
one of those,
brave soul.
yeah, one of those ships, galleons, like single player, it was terrible. But in this game, it's super easy, and the ship combat, it kind of reminds me of Everspace and Everspace 2, and I know you played that. It basically plays exactly the same. So honestly, really cool game, and as someone that doesn't play early access games, the team is doing a stand-up job. I talk about, well, we both talk about, and a lot of people talk about how AAA slop is a thing, and it's just really cool seeing this kind of game. Like for people watching at home, there's footage on screen at the minute. Like it's just a really fun game. Zero G movement is super intuitive. I think a lot of people are really going to like this game. And again, it's early access. It's $20. They're going to add story content, guns, basically everything. And the developers have been really receptive on Twitter. So if people want something added to the game, maybe mention it to them. I am going to try and ask the developer for, I want to say AI NPCs, because the little robot does help in solo. However, I think that if you have full-on AI squad mates, it would just be better. And there is also a free trial if people want to try it. Now, if I remember correctly, aren't game preview trials 2 hours long?
I can't remember.
Well, for people that want to try it, you can try it for free. And like I was saying, there's no achievements yet, but like other early access games, I'm guessing they'll be retroactive. The developers will be, fairly upfront about that. But hey, cool game by a new developer, and the fact that this is their first game, really good stuff. Now,
Does it have split screen by chance?
You know what? I have no idea. I'd have to check. Actually,
I was just curious.
I've got a list of features here. Just let me check quickly. There's no mention of split screen, but I'd have to check.
Okay, fair enough.
But with the performance, I've been playing on Xbox Series X. I haven't actually had any problems. Some people have. I'm guessing maybe that'll be something they'd add after they've had some of the performance stuff sorted out. It did get a patch today, and it got one on Steam yesterday. So, yeah, I mean, again, I'll talk about this game next week if anything changes. Now, we have literally, not even kidding, 20 topics. Wow. So, and by the way, for people watching live, for some reason, YouTube has been acting up again. So, if you're enjoying it, please hit like, share, and subscribe. I hate doing these little ads, but sharing the content out and liking it surprisingly helps with the algorithm, especially the likes. I don't get it, but that's how it works. Now, Logan, I know you an Assassin's Creed 4 fan like me. Did you happen to see the Assassin's Creed leak today?
I have not seen one today. Frankly, I haven't been online too much today, except for a little bit. So anything like major game wise, I've probably missed, except for a few small things. So what's going on with Assassin's Creed 4?
Well, I'm gonna send you these right now, because I want to hear your jaw hit the floor. Right, hold on. I've sent you one of them, and there's two of them. So, for people that don't know, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, beloved by millions of fans, if I remember correctly, it's one of the best-selling Assassin's Creed games. At least it's in the top 3. And, this is a port or a remaster that people have been, hyped for a while, because Assassin's Creed 4, it's an amazing game. However, not being able to crouch, it kind of takes you out of the game a bit. However, I've seen some leaked screenshots today, which I cannot post in this video, and my jaw hit the bloody floor. Like, this doesn't look like a simple little remaster to me. I was expecting 4K 60, the ability to crouch, more things to do in the open world, which we've heard rumors about in the past. But this game, my God.
This is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Like, my first thought was, is this Geralt?
Yeah.
Because it kind of looks like Geralt of Rivia a little bit. But yeah, like, my goodness, the city design and like the roof with the The paneling, you can tell it's like very much a Mediterranean, Caribbean type atmosphere with the paneling on the roof and the palm trees and like the nice, marketplace town square. Everybody's there, and then the I my guess is this would be kind of like a the under storage of like a boat,
Yeah.
kind of, where you would put your supplies and stuff. Like, yeah, like the level of detail and all this is crazy.
Yeah. And the thing about Ubisoft, their games leak. It feels like every single Ubisoft game leaks, except
Oh, it's
Splinter Cell.
tradition,
Yeah,
just like ESRB.
yeah,
Yeah.
like everything Splinter Cell doesn't leak, but everything else for Ubisoft does, and it looks amazing. So like when I heard remake, I kind of twitched my eye a little bit, thinking, "Is it though? Is it really?" And the rumor was that this has been remade in the new Snowdrop engine. So whatever they're doing with this game, it looks bloody good. And Assassin's Creed 4, for people that don't know, it's a damn good game. It really is. Uh, the rumor that it's removing the modern day content, I completely believe that. That people complained about that so much, especially when it shifted to the first person stuff with 4. I get it. I completely get it. Like, I'm guessing the percentage of people that care about the modern day stuff is exceptionally low. Um, I'm one of the people that liked all the Desmond stuff, but when they changed it, I didn't like it. But hey, I will say this for people at home: if you're looking forward to Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, I suspect we're going to see this at the Game Awards. Because Ubisoft this year, they haven't had a showcase, and it turns out they don't plan on having a showcase, which is kind of a shame, because they do have some cool games in the works. That said, they have literally cancelled like 8 games this year, which it feels like. But hey, Assassin's Creed, it looks good. Let's get into some other news, because again, literally 20 topics. So, yeah, Unreal Engine 6 was just casually announced today. uh, all I'll say is,
Well, that's a big news.
yeah, and the thing is, Unreal Engine 5 was such a promised thing at the beginning of the generation that these games are going to look photorealistic. You're going to have no loading screens, yet we still have people crawling through cracks in a wall, to like hide the loading screen. But people have been complaining about performance for Unreal Engine 5 this entire generation. Yeah, the games look amazing. However, can we sort out Unreal Engine 5 first before we move on to 6? Like, I get the excitement. Like, over the next year, 2 years, yeah, we'll be talking about Avatar in a bit because I'm giddy at the minute. And yeah, I'm an Avatar fan. I'm one of those people. I love Pandora, the Blue People, all that stuff. Leona Lewis soundtrack from the first game, or for the first film. Beautiful. But yeah, Unreal Engine 6, it's a thing. It's mainly going to be a buzzword for a while because Unreal Engine's still, I want to say it's in its tinkering phase when it comes to 5. Like, people are complaining about Borderlands, and I haven't played it yet. I really look forward to playing Borderlands. It looks fantastic, but we constantly hear about these performance issues with Unreal, especially on PC. I think PC's the bad one because, like, you can have this super powerful PC that has, like, a GTX 5090 and have the best CPU, yet developers aren't optimizing for these pieces of hardware. And, like, I get it must be really frustrating because, like, I know people with really cool PCs and they should be able to play games at a locked frame rate, but they can't. It's stupid. It comes off as lazy, and I hate using the term lazy developers, but it does come off that way. You work on a game for years, it gets delayed multiple times, and then it comes out and it performs terribly. And look, I'll be honest, I kind of miss the days when we had developers making their own engines, right? Games always had their own unique look, but I feel like this shift to Unreal Engine, yeah, you're going to get some amazing looking games, but it feels like everything is going to start looking the same, and that's a major worry for me. You go back to the 7th generation. Shocker, I'm talking about the 7th generation again. All these games look different. You know, developers were using a wide variety of engines, and now it feels like we're going to get to a point where every game looks photorealistic the same. And I hope we don't get there. But yeah. And the funny thing is, I was playing Space Marine 2 the other day. That's using their Saber Interactive's unique in-house engine called the Swarm engine. That game is one of the best looking games this generation, right? And they have multiple games in the works using the Swarm engine. Like, maybe we have to stop relying on Unreal Engine as much. Like, Ubisoft, they have the Snowdrop engine, and I think they have a new version of Snowdrop coming out later this year. Like, maybe we should take a step back, and, like, I get it, Unreal Engine, it's great for a lot of games, but we don't need it for everything. But hey, that's just me. Logan, what's your take on the situation? Because Unreal Engine 5, as amazing as it is, we hear non-stop complaints about it.
Yeah, honestly, this is shocking to me, and this might sound like memory lane, but like honestly, doesn't it feel like we haven't even had Unreal Engine 5 that long? Because like I remember in I know this dates us, but I remember in 7th gen and even a little bit later, it felt like we had Unreal Engine 3 forever or Unreal Engine 4 for a very long time before we got to 5. And it feels like we just started having people become actually competent somewhat with Unreal Engine 5 and we're already jumping to 6. It just I don't know, it just feels a little early to me. And also the fact that this ties to a larger issue, like you said, with everything being the same, AAA slop, all that kind of thing. Where, like, I did admire it when, Crytek had the Cry engine, EA had the Frostbite engine, Bethesda has their Creation engine, Halo, once upon a time, had the their engine just and then Doom it has it engine like different places had different looks and vibes and you could tell the experience and everything was very much unique to that. And I get it from a purely business standpoint, cost effective, like we want to be able to line people up like bots as employees and go, okay, this is what everybody does. You learn this, you have Unreal Engine, and we put you to work, and that's that, and easy peasy. But at the same time, doesn't that kind of start just feeling a little soulless husky a
Yeah.
little bit? To where if everything is just like, well, everybody does this or everybody does that. I mean, it becomes like basically like Microsoft Excel or something like that, but for games. Like, at some point, like, have a little difference. But maybe that's just too nitpicky. I don't know.
Yeah, you know what? I saw a great comment in chat by Shizno Elite. He mentioned how we had to wait forever for Unreal Engine 5 to be implemented. Like, this generation, like, look at all the pre-Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 releases. We were told Unreal Engine 5 is going to be the best thing ever. Best thing since sliced bread. And, we had to wait, like, 4 years, 3 years for, like, a variety of games to come out using that engine. Um, it's just weird, This generation, it's been extremely weird. We have these super powerful consoles. Like people can put the console war to rest, right? The Xbox Series X, the PlayStation 5, the Series S. These are all super powerful consoles, right? And for some reason, worse than ever, developers are struggling to get games to run at a solid frame rate before all these patches and stuff, right? Same thing on PC, right? My friend that I play Warzone with, he loves his PC, but he's kind of shying away from buying PC games because these developers, I say some of them, they're putting out these games that perform terrible. He has an amazing PC, and yet, Borderlands would barely work on the thing. Yet he's playing older games and they work fine. You know, I might get crap for this. I was actually fine with how games looked in Unreal Engine 3. Right?
I'm telling you, man, we have to go back.
Yeah, we have to go back. Like, did you ever play Arkham Knight and think, wow, this game's ugly? Nobody thought that.
No, I mean it was awesome. I still think Gears 3 and that Halo 4 and some of those late games of that gen were mind-bogglingly beautiful. Even like Half-Life 2, which was much earlier with
Yeah.
the orange box, was very good. That generation, and when the PS3 finally got its act together and started figuring out how to use their engine right, they started making some breathtaking stuff from that era. And I know occasionally you'd have the soulless eyes here or there,
Yeah.
or the yellow filter, which we've talked about so many times, but in general, it felt like there wasn't as much optimization issues. It was like game comes out, you play it, you're happy, and it doesn't take up an unholy amount of storage or require a ton of updates. And then content came at a steady cadence, and it's just the business cycle is just different. It feels like cookie cutter, cut corners, bare minimum, and then we apologize for ripping you off.
Yeah. I mean, we mentioned the older Unreal Engine stuff, right? If you go back to Unreal Engine 3 with Borderlands 2, right? The PC version had all this fancy like water physics stuff, and I think it was called physics at the time. And the console versions performed really well. And like Borderlands 2 has a lot going on screen a lot of the time, right? There's a lot of
Oh,
enemies.
it is like an acid trip.
Yeah,
Yeah.
crazy amount of stuff happening on screen. And the 360 was perfectly fine. The PC was perfectly fine. And now, like, I saw gameplay recently of an end game area in Borderlands 4, and it turns out there's a memory leak in Borderlands on Xbox, right? So the longer you play the game, the worse it'll perform. So, like that, like
Oh, it's a Randy magic trick.
yeah, like that's absolutely crazy that we doing this now, and it's one of the things I've said before, and I'll say again, that if you play an Xbox 360 or PS3 game, late generation, it still looks pretty good. But if you play an early Xbox One, PlayStation 4 game, I think those games they've actually aged worse. A lot of them, not all of them, because that's the switch to that generation. Everyone was like, let's make everything photorealistic. Let's do less art styles. So you're pushing higher polygon counts, more realistic lighting. And now those games, they look pretty bad. But if you fire up something like Gears of War, let's say Judgment, or, God of War 3, those games still look great. Crazy. Like, hell, Mario Galaxy 2 on the Wii. Do you know that game had 4K textures? Originally when it launched.
It doesn't shock me. Nintendo cooked with the Wii. Like it was fantastic. For as awful as the Wii U was, the Wii was good.
Yeah, and they had that running on a Wii, which, and by the way, if anyone at home has a NES Mini, do you know the NES Mini curb stomps the Wii in power, and the chip is about the size of a fingernail? So like
That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy, but like the games have just aged differently, man, and I fear for the future. I hear Unreal Engine 6, and don't get me wrong, like Unreal Engine is a clicky term. A lot of people search Unreal Engine stuff. The games look great, but we have to admit that the performance isn't there. Some developers are newer and they performing pretty badly. Like, look at Metal Gear Solid, right? People have had some issues on console, and they got out a patch basically straight away, thankfully. However, it's pretty much a widespread issue at the minute. We're seeing developers, like, they'll come out and say, yes, it's Unreal Engine 5, and you don't get the reaction that you got a year ago. If you said your game was Unreal Engine 5 a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, it would be making headlines. People are like, oh my god, it's Unreal Engine 5, it's going to be the best thing ever. Now, you kind of worry a little bit, It's like, yeah, we're hearing about Unreal Engine 6. Like, chill. Just chill. Let developers here's my word to Epic. Give developers better tools for Unreal Engine 5, then move on to 6. It can't, Unreal Engine 3 at the time got better and better and better. And if you compare Unreal Engine 3 games like Mass Effect to Unreal Engine 3 games like Mass Effect 3, bloody night and day difference. Looked better and performed better. Because developers were able to, they learned the hardware over an entire generation and they learned the engine over an entire generation. And I feel like developers, they just aren't getting that chance now. And it's bloody showing. It also doesn't help that games take 6 years to make now, which is terrifying if you think about it. But yeah, Epic, get your act together because something needs to change. The development pipeline needs to change something, because if I hear Unreal Engine 5 causing stutter on someone's console or PC one more time, I'm going to lose my marbles. And I don't think I have a lot of marbles left to lose. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what, Logan? You wanted to talk about Spyro the Dragon because it feels like we've been hearing about Spyro the Dragon 4 happening for 2 years now, and it looks like something may be happening.
Yeah, there was just a little follow-up to the point last time we had about, Spyro Day for the community. Well, they officially, Toys for Bob took part in it, and they were sharing all these posts and posting artwork and stuff and taking part with all the community stuff. But then they also, Spyro account activated and posted something. Toys for Bob posted something. And it was some new artwork, celebrating 27 years. But the design of Spyro in it was apparently new or new-ish, to where it was linked to a artist who has returned back to the studio. And then, if you look at the 27 put together, it forms a 4. There's all kinds of, clue things that they hid in their little post. And it seems more and more on the nose that Spyro 4 is well underway, and that we should look forward to that in the near future.
Yeah, maybe that'll be in a game award type thing, because I can't imagine a Spyro 4 taking 6 years to make. It just can't really, can it? If it does, I'll be really worried about the future.
It's not that kind of game. It's not Perfect Dark. Hey-o,
yeah, oh my god, I could talk about that all day. But hey, hopefully we see something soon. You know what, Logan, you want to talk about this because it is a cool game and it comes out next month, and that's Keeper.
Yes, it surprised everybody that they just kind of did a random post and was like, well, here you go. Here's the release date and here's some new content. Have at it, have fun. It just, on one hand, it's surprising for a studio to do that. On the other hand, if you know who runs Double Fine, it's not that surprising because he's kind of just like a wild card Mad Hatter type, just does what he wants, whatever. So I'm looking forward to it. If you had told me I'd be looking forward to a game where I'm a walking lighthouse with a pelican companion, I'd be like, what are you on? But it does look really fun.
Yeah, it looks good. I mean, we talk about lack of creativity in the AAA space, or even big studio space, and playing as a sentient lighthouse with a pelican. I mean, that's kind of creative, It looks like a cool adventure game. I've seen a decent amount of gameplay. I think there's about 30 minutes of gameplay people can watch on YouTube. It looks fun. It's a quirky Double Fine game. You know what you're getting into, and yeah, that comes out in. If I remember correctly, that's about halfway through October.
I can't remember, but I know it is very soon.
Yeah, so it's not that far away. But yeah, highly recommend people check it out. And I think that's one of the that's one of the good things about Xbox at the minute, is that their studios, even though creative freedom can end up bad sometimes, you get cancelled games. Sometimes games take years to make. You have Double Fine. They still making creative games. Again, I'm looking forward to a game where you play as a walking lighthouse. That doesn't make sense, you know. But I'm happy for it. But yeah, it looks really cool, and obviously that's going to be a Game Pass game. You know what?
Is it okay if I add two micro topics real quick?
Yeah,
It'll
yeah,
take like 2 minutes.
yeah. Go for it.
Because we were talking about indies, like where I'm from, Oklahoma City isn't exactly known as like the biggest gaming scene in the world, but apparently a studio in my hometown just released a game called Arctic Awakening, and it's out on Steam, Xbox, and PS5, and it actually looks really cool. It's like a kind of like one of those walking sim, like survive out there narrative, and you have like this therapy bot help you and is your companion and helps you while you survive out in the wilderness, and it looks really fun, and I just wanted to give them a shout out and say, hey, I'm proud that a studio from my town is actually launched a game across all the major platforms for the first time, for a game from our town. And then I also wanted to say that this Alien game, because you and I both love Alien,
Yeah,
um, actually is getting an Xbox port, and it's coming out like from today. And it was originally a VR only game for PC and PS5, but the team went in and were like, you know what, a lot of everybody deserves to play this. All Alien fans should play this. Alien is like so hot right now with Alien Earth, and then the Predator and Alien versus Predator probably coming soon ish, and then Alien Romulus sequel. So they've now made this Alien game into a fully playable non VR version, and it looks so much like Alien Isolation mixed with Fireteam Elite, kind
yeah.
of like a hybridy kind of thing. And I'm just super stoked for that. Wanted to shout that out in the other game. And yeah, Winter Awakening is out now, and then this Alien game comes out on the 30th.
Yeah, I'm happy you mentioned that Alien game because, like, for people that don't know, I can't do VR. You
Oh,
know,
it makes me sick. Yeah.
yeah, the motion sickness thing. Like, I suffer from motion sickness in general. Like, like if I get on a bus for extended amount of time or a train, I need to basically, turn inside out. you know, um, can't deal with that stuff. So VR, like, basically my inner ear just doesn't want to exist. So like I can't use them. So like when the Alien game was announced last year, I'm not gonna lie, I was a little bit salty. I'm like, damn you. Um, but yeah, the non VR version comes out soon, comes to Xbox, and the best part is it's part of a trilogy. So the second part, I believe, comes out next year, early next year, and there's going to be a third part later next year as well. And it looks really cool. Like Logan said, it's part Alien Isolation, part Fireteam Elite, single player. It's got the classic Alien sounds you've heard before. It looks really, really cool, and I love the Alien franchise. We don't have enough games, but yeah, if people have been put off from VR, finally a non-VR version's coming. I will say this: I wish more developers do this whole non-VR thing. Like obviously, if they have a vision in mind and they want to go wild, cool, go for it. But release a non-VR version. Like, do you know if they released Half-Life Alyx on Xbox and PlayStation non-VR, that's going to sell millions
Oh,
instantly.
I'd be day one,
Yeah,
100%.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, I actually go out my way to check to see if that's a thing. It's not, but like I want Half-Life
It
Alyx.
should be.
Yeah, it should be. I think there's a game on PlayStation. I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's called London the Heist. Um, like why not sell that as a normal game? I just don't get it. But yeah, Alien games. Thankfully, we're getting them regularly. Who would have thought we live in a time where we actually getting more Alien games than Star Wars games? How's that a thing?
Man, we have entered the dark timeline.
Yeah, and and if you're looking for Star Trek games, then oh my god, uh, nothing, nothing for anyone. Um, but yeah, the Alien game looks good. Comes out soon. It's a good time for very creative games, and the Alien game, it's a double A title, so it's more than likely going to work day one. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? We still have, oh my god, like 17 topics left. So the new Arc Raiders trailer came out. It's getting an open beta. I think it's running from the 15th to the 17th of October. Now, last time people had to do all the sign up stuff. I'm still waiting for my code. Never got one. But no codes this time around. You're just going to log on to Xbox Live or whatever. Download the beta next. I think it's available for preload a week early. I'd have to double check, but if you've been looking forward towards Arc Raiders, it's going to be available, and it's going to be $40 when it releases late next month. Star Trek versus Predator. My God, if that was a thing, I'd buy that in a heartbeat. But yeah, Arc Raiders, $40 at launch. Honestly, pretty decent price. Not gonna lie. I will say this: I've hyped myself up for extraction modes for years now. I watch people play Escape from Tarkov, and when I start playing Delta Force and I lost my stuff, which I mentioned in a previous podcast, I'm not gonna lie, that hurt. I stormed out of the room, and I came to the conclusion that I want the extraction experience, but single player, because I don't want to deal with human beings. So if any developer wants to get on that, please do it. I'll buy it. Now, Logan, we obviously talked about multiplayer extraction games. Arc Raiders doesn't interest you in the slightest, does it?
No, I like the colors and I like the I like the artwork, but no, not really. And like it's not even a slight at the developers. I'm sure it's going to be a good game. It's just not my cup of tea, but I'm happy for everybody who's looking forward to it.
Yeah, I get you, man. I mean, look, the extraction multiplayer mode, like that. That's the thing that still needs to take off on console, because it's been a big on PC for ages now. It's just there hasn't been that one game that's been big, because back in the day, if you look at battle royale games on console, nobody did it before PUBG. And then, Fortnite came along, and then the world changed because everyone liked battle passes all of a sudden. But with extraction games, we haven't had that yet. There's 2 extraction games on Xbox. I should say before Delta Force, there was 2. They're both terrible. Delta Force is an experience. It plays great, but people camping at extraction points, I don't like that. But who knows? This might be it. But if any extraction developers listening, please, for the love of God, put in a PvE only mode. I don't want to deal with humans because, let's be honest, humans can be trash, and they will camp at extraction points and they'll just farm people. And I experienced that within a week of Delta Force coming to Xbox. So do you know what I've done with Delta Force after someone's been looking forward to it for a year? I deleted it. I deleted it from my Xbox because people camping at extraction points. I'm not dealing with that, even though I enjoyed the experience up until that point. But yeah, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. Let's see what we've got next. Oh, now this is going to be a good one because Avatar is all over the news today, and I'm so happy for it. So Avatar Frontiers of Pandora launched in, 2023? Yeah, I believe December 2023. And I'll be honest, Ubisoft didn't market that game whatsoever. It came out after the movie, The Way of Water, and it didn't do well. It didn't chart as far as I know. Nobody was talking about it. There was next to no coverage around Avatar. But you know what? That game plays amazing. It looks amazing. In fact, I think it's probably one of the best looking games this generation. Nobody talks about it. Ubisoft doesn't talk about it. Anyway, it got 2 expansions in 2023. Sorry, in 2024 got 2 expansions. And there's a lot of content there. You are looking at like 90 plus hours, if you include the main game plus the expansions. I put maybe 80 hours into it, and I only completed 30% of the map. So it's a big game. So anyway, it kind of went quiet for a while. Ubisoft with their single-player games, they'll give it a year of DLC, and then they'll move on to something else, and the team will probably work on a sequel or move on to a different franchise. That's what Ubisoft does in general. And this game went completely silent for about a year, until about a month and a half ago, where Ubisoft announced Frontiers of Pandora, it's getting a third-person mode. And do you know what happened for that game? People start talking about it. Right? And as my prediction, I thought they were going to do this as basically a relaunch for the game alongside the new movie. And it turns out I was right. In the third-person mode, it looks fantastic. The third-person mode's coming this December. But also, today, they announced a, From the Ashes expansion, which is going to take place after the events of the new movie, which comes out this December, and roughly 6 months after the ending of the first game. So, the story trailer for this looks very good. The Avatar fan base is lit up because guess what? We have content coming. We have a game coming, or basically a new expansion, a revamp of the game via the third-person mode, and a new movie. And this movie is probably going to clear 2 billion, more than likely. The game's going to get basically a new launch 2 years after release, which not many games get. Not many AAA games that fail get. And I love the fact that this is happening. This is what you get when Ubisoft actually gave this game a chance. They let the developers make more content for it, and everyone's talking about Avatar. There's a new physical version coming out later this year, which comes with the main game and the new expansion. As far as I know, it doesn't come with the 2 previous expansions, but those are on sale all the time. Logan, I do know you bought the version with the DLC when it was on sale, didn't you?
Yeah, I bought the Ultimate Edition when it like randomly plummeted to like $45 or something. And it was one of the first games that supported cloud stuff.
Yeah.
So I picked it up and I was about to jump in until I learned about the third person mode on our show. So I'm just waiting for the new content in the third person mode to jump in fresh then.
Yeah. It's going to be a whole new launch for people because, like, for people that haven't played it, the game's first person, but it's in third person when you're riding a mount. And the game looks phenomenal. I can't even describe. Like I should have gameplay during the show. Like you have this huge vertical forest, floating mountains, and it feels like you're on Pandora. And by the way, I don't understand why people like to hate on Avatar because it did well. It's a popular thing to hate for some reason.
I think they hate the Stanford sweater thing from one of the characters in the film. Like I see so many tweets about that over time randomly. Every time Avatar's mentioned.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't get it. It's like, do you know what I think people are trying to Nickelback Avatar. You know, nobody had a problem with Nickelback, and then all of a sudden everyone hated Nickelback. I think people try to do that to Avatar just because people like it. You know, early 2000s, Nickelback were huge, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, hated. People try to Nickelback Avatar. I swear to God. But hey, we're getting tons of more content, you know. I'm actually surprised by this because Ubisoft, they have a tendency to just drop games entirely if the popularity fades. You know, Splinter Cell Blacklist didn't get the rest of its content because not enough people bought it. Star Wars Outlaws had a sequel completely cancelled during development because of the first game's reception. Although I do hope they can come back with a new Star Wars game and just do something. Like, there's so much you could do with smuggling in the Star Wars universe that I think they deserve to make another game. Or at least earn the right. But yeah, Avatar, more content. I'm over the moon. Because, again, I thought this game was dead. It's a single-player Ubisoft game from 2022 or 23, I think. And here we are. It's coming out. Love it. It does kind of ensure that the world of the first game is going to change after this expansion. But what surprised me even more is I'm surprised that they're going with this route rather than coming out with a brand new game, because that would have been such an easier sell. Hey, Avatar 2 game, Avatar the game 2. I learned all these valuable lessons with the first game, all that stuff. But no, an expansion. So yeah, Ubisoft, they are learning as a company, thankfully. And Ubisoft, they get a lot of hate. They really do. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, though, because, Skull and Bones, after its horrific launch of next to no content, and they said, hey, we're gonna put on foot combat in this game. We're gonna add to it over time. They didn't abandon the game. This game clearly not abandoning it. Assassin's Creed Shadows, they've improved the gameplay, basically everything about it since performance, add more content. It's going to get more content in the future. Like, they're going back into their games and giving them even more content and fixing all the problems people want, because Avatar alone, that's had constant updates of new features, fixing features, all that stuff. So that's a great example of a AAA developer actually taking care, which I love. And if people haven't played Avatar, the best way to describe it, it's kind of like Far Cry-ish. It's Far Cry-ish, but slightly different. Like, it's hard to explain. But if you like Avatar and you like Far Cry, you're bloody going to like this. It has the best open world forest of any game ever. The fact that you can be riding your Ikran up in the sky and then jump off and then use these massive leaves to slow your descent. It's so cool. So Avatar fans, if you haven't played it, especially, what are you waiting for? If you're waiting for the third-person mode, I mean, that mode looks fantastic. They have to redo basically all the animations in the game. So, yeah. Anyway, we'll move on. Just, it's very good to see Avatar news, because if you're an Avatar fan, what have we had in this past, 15, 16 years? We had a game launched by Ubisoft in 2009. Didn't do well, although I liked it. We had the movie, cleared 2 billion. We had the second movie, cleared 2 billion. We had Frontiers of Pandora, and that's it. We've had nothing else. Nothing. But we'll move on. You know what? We'll quickly talk about this because it's kind of depressing. Logan, do you know that the Xbox 360 turns 20 in 2 months?
Yeah, that is depressing. Like, I remember saving up money and doing odds ends jobs to be able to earn enough money for my folks to take me over to GameStop and get my 360. And yeah, it feels like a whole different lifetime ago. I mean, it was definitely a simpler time.
Yeah, a simpler time. Just wanted to bring it up because, like, I wanted everyone listening right now to feel old randomly. 20 years. My God. I can't believe it. The thing is, my 360, it's still hooked up and works perfectly fine.
Same.
I have the matte black slim. Purrs like a kitten. Love that one. Oh, which one do you have hooked up?
I think mine might be the Elite. Now that I'm looking at it again, because it's a little chunkier, but
Yeah.
it's like the shiny, almost blackish chrome look
Okay.
with the silver startup icon, and then it came with Alan Wake and all its DLC and Forza Motorsport 4, and then like an unholy amount of memory, 250 gigabytes. I thought I was living large. Now that's a Call of Duty game.
Yeah, while we're talking about this, we'll quickly mention the price thing because, my my Xbox 360 Slim, the matte black one, it came with 2 games, and it was 250 gigabytes. I think it came with Lego Star Wars 2 in one of the Need for Speed games. And that cost about £150 less than my launch 360. Right? And here we are, in 2025. The futuristic year of 2025. I hate how futuristic years sound, by the way. It's like the beginning of a Blade Runner movie opening.
They seem fake.
Yeah.
It feels like we're in a weird timeline.
Yeah, like, Marty McFly goes to the future and it looks crazy. We have holographic, Jaws 17 adverts. And that's like, I think that was set in 2015. My God. Well, anyway, so the Xbox Series X and S are getting price bumps in the US. Now, people kind of lost the marbles the other day when I mentioned that it has nothing to do with, or it doesn't 100% have anything to do with, tariffs, because in the UK prices have been going up since 2022. Sony raised their prices up, I think £60, and then it happened again, I think last year, and Xbox raised their price twice. So like this is before the tariff stuff, and like Facebook, I was telling Logan before the show, like I don't blame Xbox for the prices going up in the UK or worldwide, and I don't blame PlayStation either. Not really. I blame Facebook. The Oculus Rift or MetaQuest, or whichever one it was called at the time, that was the first electronic device on the market to say during the pandemic, hey, we're going up $100. That started everything. It started a snowball effect, and that's why these consumer electronic goods are costing more than ever. By the way, isn't it weird how televisions haven't gone up in price, but everything else has? um,
Yeah, that's crazy. Cause I remember, again, this dates us, but you remember growing up when like the fancy TVs used to be like the big, super thick
yeah, yeah,
ones, and like had the big base and everything, or it was like, oh man, my dad's got a 70-inch plasma in the den, or a um or an HD LED, or whatever, and those suckers cost so much money. Now it's like, are you kidding me? I can get a 4K TV for a couple $100 or something. Like, it might not be the best one, but it's still a 4K TV. It's wild how that has plummeted, but this other stuff has skyrocketed.
yeah. So like electronic products are going up across the board, but TVs are completely fine. Graphics cards, absurd price. Recently this past week, Microsoft announced that the prices are going up in the US for the Xbox Series X. And yes, PlayStation went up, I think 4 months ago. The only thing that went down in price was their disk drive, and I think we've came to a point where these companies, they no longer want to take the loss. You know, consoles have always been sold at a loss. Thankfully for us in the past, but if you look at all these consoles now, like the Switch One got a price bump, right? And the Switch One came out in 2018, 17, one of the two. And that's going up in price, right? We had an Xbox One launch at $500. We had the Xbox One X launch at $500, and then we had the Xbox Series X launch at $500. And by the way, I haven't changed my stance on this. I think $500 should be the max ceiling for a console price. I'm not budging from that hill. And like I live in the UK, so we get absolutely screwed on prices for consoles. So like them raising the price now, these console manufacturers they don't want to raise. Sorry, they don't want to take a loss on every console. Like look at the Wii U, right? Do you know the Wii U was sold in such a way where to be profitable, they needed to sell one console and one game, and that's how that console would turn a profit. However, the console failed due to a ton of different reasons, but that's basically the business model for the Wii U. Whereas Xbox and PlayStation, they sell the PlayStation and Xbox at a loss, and over the generation, they make all the money back via first-party software and the 30% off third-party software. Now, considering the current market we're in, yeah, people are going to say tariffs and stuff, but like, even Logan agrees with me to some extent. Like, we can't just blame tariffs because it's been happening in the UK and everywhere else in the world since 2022. There's tons of different factors in this, and again, during the pandemic, all these companies were staffing up. Games were selling millions because we were all stuck in the house, and like Xbox and PlayStation, remember, they were selling through the roof. Like granted, the PlayStation was selling more, but both of them were selling really well, and the gaming market looked super healthy. Yet the second we exited the pandemic and people went back to work, that's when all these studios start shutting down. There was less people at home buying games. More people, I should say, less people had less money, all that type of thing. And here we are now in 2025, and games are taking 6, 7, 8 years to develop. and you have Microsoft and Sony that they don't want to sell their consoles at a loss anymore. And as a consumer, it's frustrating because we have to deal with this for basically everything. You know, the price of eggs. I always say the meme in the US. You know, I've mentioned before, butter where I live has security tags on them. Not because they'll get stolen, because products over a certain price, I think it's over £7, have security tags. So like bottles of whiskey and wine and stuff. And yeah, butter has security tags. Like, come on.
Sad, man.
Yeah, it's sad. And, you know, the consoles are in a weird space where, you know, gaming's kind of getting stagnant. You don't have like millions and millions of new gamers coming into the fold, buying a new console and then buying games regularly. Like all of us nerds right now that play tons of games each year, we haven't grown for 20 years. It's because I want to make a whole video on this, but I'll kind of talk about some of this now where you have all these people that were teenagers or younger during the seventh generation, right? Where Call of Duty and Battlefield and Halo was at its prime, spending like whatever money they got on map packs. Those people, they got a little bit older, they've had kids now. They're playing video games less. So the only people that are buying into the gaming space at the minute, you have the free-to-play players, such as the younger gamers that don't want to play on consoles or buy games. They'll play Fortnite, Apex, Warzone, Fall Guys, any of those free-to-play games on whatever device they have. And the only people playing are the hardcore, which never stopped gaming, and the parents that can play whatever time they have each week to play, right? That the game industry is not growing. Microsoft and Sony have both realized this, so their consoles aren't selling like what they need them to. Because granted, the PlayStation 6, or should I say 5, it's going to sell probably 100 million consoles, but it's the software these companies care about. That's why these console manufacturers, they use, you know, monthly active users as a metric, because those monthly active users spend money. But those numbers aren't growing the way they want them to. So if you have like, let's say, 10 million people buy an Xbox and a PlayStation right now, right? And those people are just free-to-play gamers. Some of those consumers are never going to give Xbox and PlayStation money because maybe they play Fortnite and don't buy microtransactions and they don't buy other games. That's why these consoles have gone up in price. That's my opinion. That's just my opinion. But Logan, what's your take? Because I've been rambling for 10 minutes.
Yeah, this whole topic, I mean, this horse is mush and like is like a theoretical horse at this point, but it's been beaten to death so much. But yes, it sucks. Raising the price sucks. I hate it. I don't like it. I don't respect it. You know, it across all these industries, everything is just costing more, and it filters down from these companies to the consumer, who at the end of the day are the ones who have to pay the bills for this stuff. And it's no good. Um yes, tariffs play a part. I mean, obviously, but to say it's solely because of that is naive, because like they've been raising the prices of these since even before this administration took office. So it and this isn't like a staunch defense of one or another. This is just a fact. It's like they've been raising prices like these companies for years now. And they, in all likelihood, there's a good chance they raise it again before the next gen. Just the way reading the tea leaves, it wouldn't shock me, because they're trying to maximize what they got and what they have out there. And like you said, the console clientele is not growing. You've got the young people who have grown up reading on an iPad and a Kindle rather than an actual book, getting into like they learned to scroll instead of flip a page, which, that's a whole nother topic. But it just, you've got that demographic, you've got the people like us who've grown up on games, You've got the old heads who are still, firing at will and they're gonna go out with their boots on and their clip empty. And then you've got retro enthusiasts maybe who like are new to gaming but they like some of the older stuff, like either nostalgia purposes, collector purposes, whatever. And so they jump in on all these remasters and remakes and stuff and older stuff. It's just at a certain point, it's just they have to adapt and do some different stuff. And frankly, it sucks. And I was hopeful that the Ally X and Ally S, I'll call it S, even though it's not, would be like they take a knock on the price. But the fact that they raised the console prices again and they still haven't dropped the price on these makes me think that's probably not likely. It would be great if they subsidized it, but I don't know. It's a bummer, and honestly, it's just a bad look and gross when you grow up and you could expect that a console comes out at a price and then there's periodic sales for holidays or other things and they periodically go down, and then there's like a slim spin-off or a pro or elite version, and then by the end of the gen they're like basically just giving those things away just to get them out off the shelf for inventory for the next. Like I remember when the GameCube launched, like it was already a pretty good, affordable, nice console, and I love the GameCube. I remember by the end of the generation, you could get one for $50. I'm not even kidding, at like Walmart or something like that. Like imagine back then having to justify it instead of it being like a $200 360. By the end, you're paying $300 or $400 for a 360. That would have been just psychotic behavior. It's a bummer, and there's no if, ands, or buts about it. It just sucks.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully things don't get worse, but I've seen like some people mention that Grand Theft Auto 6 is going to save the industry. Like, like look, all the people that play games now, they're obviously going to play GTA 6. But if people realistically think you're going to have millions of people come back into the fold because of that game, I think they're crazy, right? Because guess what? I played GTA Online today for the first time in a long time. Let's just say I'm not going back to that again. Like there was full lobbies of people, right? Millions of people still play that game, and those people are going to move on to GTA 6. But for some reason, I've seen people in the industry suggest that GTA 6 is going to bring millions of people into like the console space, and I can't see that happening. People that own consoles will play the game. Maybe if you have a PC and you don't want to wait, you'll get the console. But I can't see there being the numbers some of these analysts are suggesting. It just seems super unrealistic. I think we've talked about this time and time again. It's like I think something in the game industry needs to change. We talk about the price of video games and how the price needs to change. Like, look, every time there's a game announced and the price isn't $70 and it's lower, notice a lot of people talk about the price being a good thing, right? Mafia: The Old Country, I think that was $49.99 in the US. People are saying that's a fair price. Other games that came out this year, Gears of War, Oblivion, Expedition 33, all these games like are significantly cheaper and they've done really well. Helldivers 2, I believe is $32.99 in the UK. It's still in the top 5. And
Silk Song.
yeah, Silk Song, that was $20. Jump Ship, $20. That's got 200,000 players on PC or something like that. Like, people are clearly being more thoughtful with their money. Because, look, when we were all stuck in the house, people, like, boredom set in quick, right? Like, fun fact about the UK, do you know that when the pandemic kicked off and we had those lockdowns, we had a 4-month lockdown, right? There was nothing to do for 4 months. Every single place was shut down unless it sold food, right? So you couldn't go to the cinema. There were no arcades open if there were any. There was literally nothing. Everyone had crap hair because all the hairdressers and barbers were shut, right? And do you know, during that 4 months in the UK, this is gonna make you laugh, Logan. Do you know, in that 4 months in the UK when we were all stuck in the house, do you know the consumption of alcohol didn't decrease? People just drank more in the house.
Oh man, I mean that doesn't surprise me. And like on a kind of related topic, it also like brought in a whole bunch of just drama and stuff because people were stuck together without being able to get out and have separate space for a little bit and all kinds of stuff. It was a rough time, man.
Yeah. And during that time, boredom setting quick. I was buying way more games digitally. I was buying way more DLC. I bought DLC for games I didn't even intend on playing. I was like, okay, I'm bored. I'll play this. I even got into renting movies then digitally, right? Um, People were spending more money, even though they may have not had it to spend. But now it's different. Like, what we're going through right now, it's basically because the pandemic caused all this crap, right? And game spending isn't what it used to be, and it probably may never be like that ever again. And yeah, the console's going up in price. It's unfortunate, but yeah, we'll move on. Um, I think that you're gonna have people online that say, "Oh, it's just the tariff stuff." It's like, you can't just blame tariffs if it's been happening since 2022. You just can't. Literally can't. It makes no sense. I just see the tariffs being a scapegoat at this point. Anyway, we'll move on. You know what? We'll talk about this quickly. Black Ops 7 got its trailer. Honestly, I'm going to be playing for the campaign, and I'm going to be playing Warzone. Outside of that, multiplayer, it's not for me anymore. I'll give it a go. Logan, I know you like me. You're going to give the campaign a go. You're not going to touch the multiplayer, right?
Yeah, like I'll play zombies or something, but
Yeah.
like general multiplayer, not really.
Yeah. I mean, it looks fun, don't get me wrong. At least it doesn't appear to have, like, how should I say, overused jetpacks. It looks like there's a double jump system. That could be really fun. I will say this: I've noticed the Call of Duty, Black Ops 6, or Black Ops 7, it's getting a lot of hate, and people are pushing Battlefield. Like, as a Battlefield fan and as a Call of Duty fan, I think people need to stop comparing the two. You can't compare them both, right? Call of Duty, it's always been more arcadey in a way. Battlefield's always been, I don't like calling it a sim shooter, but it's like halfway in between sim and arcade, right? You can pick up and play Call of Duty, not know anything about COD, and have fun. But if you pick up and play a Battlefield, you need to know how to play. It's not a game you can just pick up and play and have fun. Like, you need to know what you're doing in that game. And once you do, you're going to have a blast with it. But if people, and I see a lot of Call of Duty veterans do this, where, and this happens with every Call of Duty that comes around the same time as Battlefield, is that you have people latch onto Battlefield saying, this is going to be the best thing ever, and then they stop playing after 3 months, or they realise Battlefield launches in a horrific state. I'm looking at you, Battlefield 2042. It's the same song and
It
dance.
had tornadoes. It was supposed to be awesome.
Yeah, do you know, out of all of the Battlefield I played, I never once saw a single tornado. Not one.
What? Seriously?
Yeah, not
I
one.
was promised tornadoes.
Yeah, no
What is
tornadoes.
this?
It was, honestly, that game, it just felt like it was it felt like an asset flip. Like, that game was terrible. Apparently they added stuff since launch, but I mean, they lost me. But the point is that Battlefield gets this hilarious push where I know you're going to have these Call of Duty streamers where they're pushing Battlefield, and they're going to stop playing Battlefield because they realize you can't play that like how you play Call of Duty. You can relax and play Call of Duty. Battlefield's like, you're going to sweat it out. It's a more tactical game. It's a rough game, It's I'll compare it to Halo. Halo is the hardest first-person shooter because you have to worry about taking out your enemy shields, then the health, right? You have to be really tactical in Halo, right? But it's still fun. It's still fast-paced combat. Call of Duty, fast-paced combat. It's got super fast time to kill. In Battlefield, though, like, by the way, the new guns in the new game, there's no hit markers I didn't experience any hit markers in that game, so that's going to throw some people off. The way they deliver content in that game, I think people are going to be against it. The way their battle royale system's going to work, their battle royale is literally copying Warzone. Now, I think that's a good idea, but if you're relying on trying to get the Call of Duty fan base on your game, but you're not like Call of Duty, you're just going to have people revolt. But hey, that's just me. And I want both games to do well. Like, look, there's a story trailer that came out for Battlefield 6 not long ago, a world trailer. It might just be me, but I swear to God, they are reusing multiplayer maps as campaign maps. If that's the case, it's going to be terrible, because that's what they did with War Stories, and War Stories was lazy, super lazy. Anyway, we'll move on. So, it's 6 o'clock this morning, UK time. Thank you very much, Kojima. Kojima had his own event talking about Beyond Death Stranding, or Beyond Stranding, talking about the new movie. There's going to be an animated show, I believe. They showed off concept art and a poster for the new stealth game that's going to PlayStation called Sint. I think that's what it's called. But they also showed off a brand new trailer for OD, which is now known as OD Knock. In this game, uses Unreal Engine 5. This looked phenomenal. You have Sophia. I think is the name Sophia Lillis.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, so she's like being completely rendered in Unreal Engine in real time. It's a freaky horror game. It's going to use look, Kojima is a genius, right? I will never say he's not a genius. Metal Gear Solid, crazy games. Death Stranding makes no sense a lot of the time, but I'll say Death Stranding is kind of a masterpiece. Just based on how that game works and how the story is. So, like, the fact he's making a horror game, and I think we can both admit, this is going to be PT. Everything.
100%.
Yeah, everything he wanted to make in PT was Silent Hill, or Silent Hills, the name was going to be at the time. I 100% believe OD is basically Silent Hills. And if you have someone that crazy, that much of a genius making a horror game, it's going to be something special. And the thing that surprised me the most is that the fact the trailer even exists. I wasn't expecting a trailer for OD for at least another year. So he's clearly working with the Xbox teams. Phil Spencer was there at the event. This game could be coming sooner rather than later, because I can't imagine this being a longer game. I can't imagine this being in development as long as Death Stranding. Horror games, in my opinion, they should be shorter than Death Stranding. I don't want to play 80 hours of a horror game. Honestly, it looked fantastic. Logan, what was your take? Because OD, it did look pretty amazing.
Oh, I am like cloud nine, buddy. Yeah, I mean this is my alley. This is this. I'm so excited. And as someone like, by the way, did you ever play the PT demo?
So how I talk about, like, I'm a scaredy cat, right? I literally went down the corridor once. You do the turn, you go down the steps and through the door. I literally did that, saw something behind me, and I turned it off. I was like, I can't do this.
Lisa was terrifying. Like, I'll admit that. And like, this might sound like a gargantuan, like, thermonuclear hot take, but whatever. Hindsight's 2020. I think PT might have been one of the single most influential demos of all time.
Oh yeah,
just because I think that it spawned an entire genre of horror games, like Visage and Madison, and like there are several others that can come to mind that have been really good lately and came out after that. And like, you play them and you can't help but go, this has PT DNA in it. Like, you're in this 90s era house. You've got, phones or messages. You're looking around. It's like walking sim, but also like changing environments, hallways, doors, and then all this crazy backtracking, looping, like crazy stuff. And yeah, I really do think this will be his Silent Hills. And the fact that he dropped it on launch day of the newest Silent Hill is Chef's Kiss petty, buddy. I mean, Chef's Kiss. That is just on the nose funny.
Yeah, I mean, if I remember correctly, like, didn't Outcast or Outlast come out after PT?
If I'm remembering correctly, it did, yeah.
Yeah, so like, I have to agree. Like that demo for PT, that clearly inspired an entire generation of horror games. Like, look, I think Alien Isolation did as well as it did because of PT. You know, that was a bloody
Hmm.
demo, and that's all people talked about. Like, hell, you can't download it apparently if you like played it or something. Like, it's taken off the store, so like people would sell their PlayStation 4s that have that demo on it. Like, it's crazy if you think
It
about it.
was like Flappy Bird iPhones.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like it's stupid crazy. And this is pretty much gonna be that game. So like, hell, I'm all for it. Kojima, he's crazy, but he's also a genius. That as we've seen with a lot of artists in the past, that is the case. I see
Hmm.
people call him overrated. Like, I think that he's kind of misunderstood. There's people in the industry that want to push him onto celebrities. I've noticed because like Kojima clearly likes to work with celebrities in these video games, but like the thing that gave this away from me is that when Metal Gear Solid 5 was about to come out, and yes, we're going back to 2015. Like, there was this because it was his last Metal Gear game. He was doing this interview with all these different actors and movie directors and stuff, and like I get it, right. Kojima is clearly influential in the gaming space, even to some extent to some movie directors, but there was something weird that I felt like they were pushing him. I can't explain it, but like they were pushing him as to be this like new visionary in the gaming space. And to an extent, I think he is a visionary, but like people, journalists, mainly game journalists, and let's be honest, Jeff Keighley need to just calm the hell down, right? His content is amazing. He's going to make amazing games for years to come. And he said that he wants to direct movies at some point in the future, which, let's be honest, we can clearly understand why, right? He gets it. And by the way, it did come out today that the Death Stranding movie isn't going to be based on the game, which I think that's the right move. Like, how do you
Hmm.
how do you squeeze that into a 2-hour film? I can't see how.
A24 is talented, but that's even testing their limits.
Yeah, in A24 movies, they are crazy. But hey, I'll watch it regardless. But yeah, Kojima, I do think he's a genius, and him on a horror game, it's going to be great. Now, when will it come out? In my opinion, and I'm being optimistic, late next year.
I say Halloween next year.
Yeah, that would be
That's my prediction.
perfect. Like, really, and we've talked about this in the past. Like, Alien Isolation for me was a 33-hour game because I was crawling around scared for my life. However, people did say that was a long horror game. I think with a horror game, you don't need a long game. So like, if this game is 12 to 15 hours long, I think that's
Perfect.
perfect. And honestly, as a scaredy cat, I don't want a long horror game because I can't put myself through that. My heart will explode. Um, but yeah, it looks great. What can I say? And if people haven't watched it yet, and you've just watched it on social media, watch the 4K upload on YouTube. My God, because a lot of people are talking about just her face, but it's her hands, right? If you play video games, human faces, we've kind of done well for a while. Human eyes, they no longer look like the dead inside anymore. But if human hands are super complicated, that's why AI messes them up all the time. Video games, like her hands looked realistic. The fact that she pulled the match out of the matchbox in a way that a real person would. Just small things like that. The way the candle melted, the fact that one of these candle holders, like worms, start coming out of them. Just things like that. Super cool, super creamy, super creepy. I said creamy there for some reason. Um, Pause. Um, but yeah, it looks good. What can I say? You know what? We have a couple of.
Hair, I think, will be the last frontier for gaming. Like they still struggle with hair for some reason.
Yeah. Have you noticed a lot of games look like, the hair will move like how a person's hair would move underwater?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of like wet and just. I know, pause, whatever, but
Yeah.
it's just weird.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a few games that have done hair right. I think, Red Dead Redemption 2, Hellblade, but like I can't really name many. I mean that's another reason why you see people wear hats in a lot of video games. Or remember back in the seventh generation where all these characters had shaved heads because they didn't have to.
Oh my gosh, the Fallout Wastelander syndrome.
Yeah, that they all look the same, and a lot of games would actually have people wearing masks so they didn't have to animate the mouths move. But yeah, stuff like that. But hey, it looks great. You know what? We'll talk about this because this is a big one. And people lost their absolute marbles online. And that is, Horizon Forbidden West or Horizon Zero Dawn got listed on the Xbox website. Now, there's been a huge back and forth this past week because of how it happened. And I want to go over it quickly because the Xbox Store does kind of have listings for games that aren't there. However, the way it appeared the exact same way Helldivers 2 appeared months and months ago. And, Helldivers clearly a huge success on Xbox. And, Sony, they don't really have any of the live service games to bring over. So, like, by the way, the other game that was mentioned on the store was Ghost of Tsushima. So, like, it kind of makes sense if you think about it, because if you're going to bring over more games to Xbox, but you don't really have a long list of live service games, what are you really going to bring over? Are you going to bring over older games like Bloodborne? I'm sure people would love that, by the way. People on PC have been needing that game for a long time. I've said last week, Gravity Rush, that type of thing. But if you're going to make a hit, if you're going to make put your foot down in the market and say, look, we're also putting games on Xbox now. They might be older, but who gives a crap? Like, Ghost of Tsushima kind of makes sense because the sequel's about to come out on PlayStation. Horizon Zero Dawn makes a lot of sense. Open world action games do really well on Xbox. It's essentially a Ubisoft-ish style game. And, like, how many times have Nixus done that game, right? It came out on PlayStation 4. It had its PlayStation 4 Pro upgrade. It had its PlayStation 5 upgrade. And then it had a PlayStation 5 and PC remaster by Nixus. And same with Ghost of Tsushima. Like, by the way, am I pronouncing that game right? Is it Ghost of Tsushima?
I believe so. I am definitely not the guy for Japanese pronunciations, but that sounds pretty right to
Okay,
me.
because I'm saying Tsushima, and all I hear myself is saying the name of a fish. Like,
I feel I think I first pronounced it Tusima or something like that, and then somebody laughed. Was like, no, it's not. It's this. So yeah, I think you're right.
yeah, we'll just go with PlayStation Samurai game. My God, pick better words, damn it. So like Sony them porting games over, it does make sense. I have joked in the past, not even joked, just said that, they have these games sitting on these hard drives, these servers, where they aren't like if you didn't own a PlayStation already for Horizon Zero Dawn, what were the chances that you're going to buy a PlayStation specifically for Horizon Zero Dawn? So why wouldn't you just put those games elsewhere? You're going to have people lose their marbles regardless. But, like, when Gears of War Reloaded was announced for PlayStation, I didn't really bat an eye. It's weird, but if you didn't own an Xbox or PC for Gears of War Ultimate Edition, you were never going to buy an Xbox or PC for Gears of War Ultimate Edition. That's a 2015 game, right? The only difference is now it's 4K and it's 60. So, like, this time around, like, I completely see it happening. The thing I found more surprising was that it isn't Days Gone. That seemed like the easiest game you'd bring over first because there's no sequel in the works. It's clearly a huge hit on PC and PlayStation, and it's an open world zombie game. but it looks like they could actually be launching Horizon Zero Dawn on Xbox first as their first major single player game. Honestly, I think it'll be huge. Logan, what's your take? Because this past week, people have lost the marbles either way, but it is what it is. What do you think?
Horizon makes sense to me as one of the first ones because, like you said, look who's developed it, Nixus. And they have done so many versions of it. They clearly know the ins and outs and in between of this game. And they've had success. They've done Helldivers 2 for Xbox and PC as well. They've done Spider Man for various PlayStation versions and PC. So to me, Spider Man and Horizon always made sense to be like two of the first ones to come over, along with Days Gone. I'm honestly shocked to see Ghosts there because that to me seemed like a kind of differentiating, like a I don't know, one of those art house type things that Sony would be kind of snobby and prideful about and want to keep to themselves. But that one being linked as potentially coming over is really surprising. I would 100% get that. I'm still a little salty that I had bought like the gold edition of that on PS4 with all the stuff, and then they make that, PS5 upgrade or whatever, and then they still want me to have to pay a certain amount just to upgrade again and stuff. Like, chef's kiss and, hat tip to the Xbox team for the smart delivery. There we go. That's the word. And it being free. Like, that is such a thing we've taken for granted as Xbox consumers. We can be mad about a bunch of stuff, and we are. But the smart delivery, free cloud saves, backwards compatibility, like, they are industry top tier, not negotiable, in my opinion. And I think more people should embrace that. And yeah, like Ghosts, I would definitely pick up again because I still haven't played it. It's sitting on my hard drive. I would definitely jump in on Xbox. I'm not as interested in the sequel for various reasons, but maybe I would like it more after playing the first one. Maybe I'd get more excited for it. And to me, Days Gone not being one of the early ones still makes no sense. To me, that franchise is like has a lot of potential, and the fact that a game can't overcome the San Fran Blog Boy scores is insane to me. It sold 10 million plus. It did very well, like with consumers. I have a collector's edition. I've said it a million times. I would definitely buy it again on Xbox. I felt I feel like Ben Studios got done dirty on the handling of that game, the sequel that never happened so far, and being forced to work instead of the COD salt mines, working the Last of Us faction mines or Last of Us port mines or whatever. I feel bad for them. I feel like they got hosed really bad over that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy that you have a game that sold over 10 million copies, a brand new IP, and no sequel. Like, look, Metacritic scores. I never understood the whole reliance on them because, like, look, if you sell 10 million copies and it's a 70 something on Metacritic, who cares? People clearly like the bloody game. Um, but like deciding whether you're going to do a sequel or not based off that number, because like Sony, they do like the awards, they do like the nominations and all that stuff, and like a game that's rated 70 on Metacritic typically isn't going to be nominated for Game of the Year, but who cares, right? Like the Game Awards, like look, Jeff Keighley puts on a great show now compared to what it used to be, but there's this over reliance on people looking at the Game Awards as the barometer of what's good, and I can't stand that. Like who cares, right? If someone says this is going to be Game of the Year, they bring up the Game Awards, and that's also linked to Metacritic. I think that's just a backward way of looking at these games. Like all the interesting games I play that that stay in my mind anyway. The pretty much always AA games, and they are rated 70s. Like, look, what did Space Marine 2 get? It's not a AA game, but it didn't get a lot of, push at launch, but fans bloody loved it, you know. I don't know. I just think things need to change. But anyway, back to I was gonna say back to something else there. But anyway, back to Ghost of Tsushima and what is that zombie game? Days Gone. By God, I need to get some sleep tonight. Days Gone. I think it'll come at some point. It will be interesting to see when these are announced because Sony has a showcase tomorrow, a state of play. I can't see Sony announce an Xbox port at their own stream. I just can't see that happening. Could you see that happening? Personally, I can't.
I don't know. I'm a little torn on it. Like for some older ones like that, maybe. But like I would be hard pressed to see them do a day and date kind of port announcement at one of their own events. So to me, like maybe as filler towards the end of a presentation. Oh yeah, by the way, here you go, Xbox. Here are some games. Have fun. Toodles. And then they announce another game and then move on to close the show. I could see that, but I wouldn't expect it.
Yeah. The funny thing is, when those leaks happened the other day, people were going out of their way trying to say, like, is this like an error we've seen in the past? Is it a leak? Like, people were genuine panicking. It's like, maybe because like I'm in a different frame of mind than what I used to be. Like, people used to just argue constantly on social media. That they still do, but like, I think I'm just kind of tired of it. Like, I'm just kind of done. Like, don't get me wrong.
I'm over it.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Like the occasional cheeky little joke about something, I get it. It's fun, but it just seems like the constant like negativity and by the way, there's also forced positivity, but the negativity is just
which can be just bad.
Yeah, and like as we were talking earlier on the show about like game prices and crap, consoles going up in price. Like, I'm kind of just done with the like console war at the minute. Like, it's just too much. Like, I've had enough. It's not fun. People spend their entire time on social media, free time, just doing this every day for hours on end, and it's just tiring. I don't get why people do it, and who cares if other games go to other platforms? Like look, if you look at it like this, all the people that complain about these multi-platform things, these people still buy their multi-platform games, such as Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed. They still buy these games on their consoles. So why didn't they shift over to PC? Right? These multi-platform games are elsewhere to begin with. I don't know. I could go on all day about this, but anyway, that's the PlayStation stuff. I'm sure we'll find out soon. Now we'll talk about this quickly, and that is Elder Scrolls 6. So we've kind of had some low-key leaks over the past, I want to say, several months, where it's going to have shipbuilding, much like Starfield. It's going to have, naval combat, kind of akin to Assassin's Creed, which I kind of actually believe, dragons are going to make a return, thank God. And
I would have been bummed if there weren't dragons.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, Oblivion, great, but when you have dragons in Skyrim, that is a game changer. Like, if you go from no dragons to dragons, you kind of have to keep them going forward. And I know, like, Hammerfell, it's a different, part of the map or whatever. Who cares, right? I want to see dragons return. And it looks like that's going to be a thing. But it looks like the game might be coming out late 2027. Now, my original bet was 2026, but this actually put a smile on my face, because if you look at how this generation's gone and how all this next-gen console talk's gone, every single time next-gen consoles are brought up, 2026 is brought up. Every single leak, 2026. Honestly, I think it would be in Microsoft's best interest if they ditch 2026 as a next-gen launch. I think they should hold out, continue development with the hardware and get a console out in 2027. That will maybe still be a year ahead of PlayStation, but like this generation has been weird. People say it seemed short. It's kind of went quick, especially with what happened in the first year and a half, 2 years of this generation. All the games getting delayed all the time. I think they could possibly be moving their console release to late 2027 to have Elder Scrolls as a launch title. Because if you look at the Xbox Series X and S, they didn't have a launch title outside of Gears of War Tactics. So I can kind of believe that rumor. That's my take. Like, Logan, what do you think? Because we keep hearing 2026 for the next gen Xbox launch. I don't think a lot of people are ready, especially look at the price of these consoles and stuff. But like hearing that Elder Scrolls is 2027, I legitimately think that Microsoft may be moving their console a year.
I think that would be a perfect idea. The selfish and patient part of me is like 2026, let's get this sucker here as soon as possible. But the realist in me is like, we need to get these prices under control. We need to get quality under control. We need to get development time under control. And, shore up our cloud and some other stuff. And my goodness, I would guarantee you that a special edition console, if Xbox decided to do one again, if it launched with a Elder Scrolls, like imagine a stone kind of colored with like the dragon shout writing on it or
Yeah.
something like that, or an Alduin kind of statue edition kind of thing. That would generate so much hype. It would be ridiculous.
Yeah. And I think, like, look, talking about next gen hardware, it's exciting. It's always exciting talking about hardware. But if you go back like a year and a half ago, remember when mid gen refreshes were the topic before Sony announced theirs?
I
Before,
hated that.
yeah, we didn't like the idea of mid gen refreshes. I think mid gen refreshes only made sense last generation because 4K televisions. But and also look, let's be honest, the Xbox One, it was kind of weak at launch, right? We weren't getting the performance people wanted. It was like that thing is a massive machine. If anyone still has an Xbox One, a launch one, that console is huge, and most of it is empty
The
space.
VCR.
Yeah, VCR, and most of that is empty space inside because they were worried about the console overheating, like the 360. So like that mid gen refresh made sense. This time it didn't. But like if they wait till 2027, like you said, they could maybe manage to try and figure out the price situation because they clearly don't want to take a loss on these consoles anymore. But if they price their console for 2026 and tweak it along the year, they won't have to launch it super expensive. And I hope Sony does the same thing as well because remember the beginning of this the start of this generation where people were buying like these consoles in bulk and selling them for like $1 or $2 grand. The scalpers, right?
Helpers, yes.
Right. No matter how expensive these consoles are, it's gonna happen again, right? So if you have an $800 console, let's say hypothetically, you're gonna have people selling them on eBay for like $2 grand, $3 grand, $4 grand because they think they can get away with it. The same thing is gonna happen again. We can talk about how Microsoft and Sony could stop that at a later date, but I think look, Microsoft isn't going to pay attention to what I say on this. They obviously have what they want to do set in stone, but just thinking about it, like, look, and saying this as a content creator as well, if you talk about hardware, you get more views, right? When new hardware comes out and it's announced, people are going to be able to, like, look, I used to make weekly videos about the Xbox Series X before it came out. And then after it came out, I made weekly videos talking about features, right? That's one of the things that helped my channel grow back in 2020 and 2021, right? But the truth is that I think people aren't ready. Every time next generation comes up, people just don't. It feels like we've just bought our consoles. It's weird to say that 5 years into a generation, and I hope Microsoft realizes that. And like, look, maybe they'll have some cool new features, some AI and all this stuff, and it might make everything all good. I'm just saying, personally, that if you're going to launch with a launch title, it should be Elder Scrolls. Microsoft might blow us all away, and it could be Gears of War E-Day next year. We don't know. But, yeah, I'm just looking at everything, looking at the broad spectrum of it, because it feels like, the Xbox 360 had a wide variety of launch titles. The Xbox One, it had a wide variety of launch titles. You had Rise Son of Rome, you had Killer Instinct, you had Dead Rising 3, you had some smaller titles like Crimson. Was it called Crimson Dragon?
Yeah, Crimson Dragon, Forza
Yeah,
5.
I think I said
Yeah,
Rise.
there was a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, Rise Son of Rome. Like they had a variety of titles, and like the Xbox Series X, like they had what Gears Tactics upgrades for other games. PlayStation launched with what did they launch with? They launched with Demon Souls and I can't.
There was the Astrobot demo,
That's it. Yeah,
which was awesome. There was Demon Souls. There was gosh, maybe I'm tripping, but I could have sworn there was some racing thing at one point that they had as well. But it wasn't a lot, but it was at least they were riding off the high of PS4.
yeah. But I think this next time around, Microsoft they have to, surprise people, come out with something new. Like, look, if you go back to 2018 when Microsoft started buying studios, the number one complaint about Microsoft, it wasn't Game Pass, it wasn't hardware, it was studios. And ever since 2018, Microsoft they've been gathering studios, and you look at their game output this year specifically, right? They have like 8 games out this year. 8 games. You have AA, AAA, smaller games, and remasters, remakes. They have a wide variety of titles. Now more than ever, when people are saying, "Oh, it's the end of Xbox, it's all doom and gloom and stuff," like Microsoft's never had first party output like this before. If you go back to the 7th generation, when they had the 360, and the 360 was the talk of the town, and that was the game console to have, they were putting out like one first party game a year, if you were lucky. But it would sell like 14 million copies. Right now, Microsoft they have more studios than ever. So, like, if you launch in a new console and you have that many studios, I'm guessing you're going to have a pretty decent launch lineup. You kind of have to. So, like, let's say Microsoft does go next year. What if you do see the Halo remake, Gears of War E-Day? Like, look, the Xbox Tokyo Game Show is about to start in, 2 days? Like, we're possibly going to see Forza Horizon 6 announced like, which could technically be a next gen game. It's crazy. My point is that Elder Scrolls being a 2027 game just made me think that like maybe Microsoft will actually move their console. But hey, it is what it is. I think yeah, I see what people mean. Like, look, if you have a new console, I think realistically, you do need to have launch games. You really do, right? People buy for the newest, shiniest thing. I think having upgrades for your games is great, especially the way Microsoft do them, where they're free. But let's be honest, right? The consoles we have now, they're powerful as hell, right? They need better optimized games. But if you want me to buy a next-gen Xbox, you need to give people a big reason for that. And one of those big reasons is exclusive games. Maybe the next gen Xbox can do things that the current one can't, like such as the AI compute stuff. We've never seen anything like that on a console before. But we'll see. I just think it's a weird time ahead because we've been talking throughout this whole show and even last week that the gaming space is very fickle at the minute. I think launching a new console, at least at the minute, to me, seems like a crazy idea. And I'd love Microsoft to prove me wrong, because hardware is always exciting. But, yeah, like, Logan, if it was up to you, and I know you like the shiniest new, hardware and stuff, like, Do you think Microsoft will actually move to 2027?
Um, that's a good question. Um, I think it depends on a few things. I think it depends on how well the Ally and the Ally X and the Ally do. Because I think if that goes really, really well, like say like they're over the moon with just how great it's doing, then I could see them going, all right, well, now we've got this handheld thing and we can just keep that in the market for a while and we can bump our console to 2027 and feel good that the Ally will carry us for a year and change because we're in the latter part of this year now. um or potentially if that doesn't go well, I could see them going, oh boy, this Ally's not doing so hot and we really don't want to have a whole year of just that and nothing else shiny for people to get excited about. We need to keep momentum going. And so maybe they feel pressured to put it into 2026. And then another thing is the financials. Like, if the US decides, to alter deals and make different financial stuff, or if these companies start building silicone and chips and other things in different regions of the world, maybe, or other stuff maybe factors in and some outside of their control, maybe that would shift when it would happen. Like, to me, there's a whole bunch of factors, but like, to me, I'm more on the idea that I think this is going to be 27 than 26, but I wouldn't be just otherworldly shocked if it was 26.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this: if you're Microsoft, I personally think they shouldn't market their console like they did the last time. Like, it was a huge shock factor when they announced the Series X at the Game Awards, right? But when they announced that, the Xbox One X sales literally basically stopped, right? I think,
Hmm.
do it the traditional way. Maybe we're stuck in the past, right? But I think the traditional way of announcing your console at the summer, showed off with shiny new games, shiny new features, and then release it later that holiday. I think that's the best way to do it because you're still getting people into the ecosystem in those coming months, but it is what it is. But it will be
I
interesting.
think it was that. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
No, no, no.
I
Continue.
was just gonna say that I think it was the way it was announced, plus the you promised us or said these games were gonna come at this point, and then pandemic happened and everything shifted. Understandable, but to launch a console without a marquee tentpole launch title is like, it's not a cardinal sin, but it's a pretty big red flag for a console to launch like that. I love the Series X, great console. I'm happy I got it day one. Has made all my backwards compatibility games better, this gen of games better. But yeah, like in hindsight, you might have wanted to even push it back a little bit further to make sure a Halo or something was ready to go.
Yeah. Do you want to hear my crazy theory that if Microsoft pushed Halo 4 next year, so it was an Xbox One launch, I think we would be in a completely different world right now. I think
Okay, let's hear your theory. I like where this is going. Well, let's go down this rabbit hole.
Okay, so the Xbox One, in my opinion, had the better launch lineup. But like, what happened with the Xbox One with the entertainment stuff? Don Matrick wanted to push, basically the Xbox One being the home entertainment box, the one box to rule them all type thing. But when that happened, I was like, my 360 already did that. I played my DVDs on it. I listened to my music on it. I watched my YouTube on it. I watched my digital movies on it. It's like I was getting a more powerful console that did really cool things, but like outside of the hand gestures and stuff, I didn't really understand the concept, right? Because the 360 already did that. They want to sell you basically a fancier Xbox 360 all in one device. So when it got to the summer showcase and they showed off Rise Son of Rome, Dead Rising 3, and all of those dual screen features, remember when they were trying to push the mobile app? And all cool, right? But like, I honestly think that if Halo 4 was pushed to next year and it was an Xbox One launch title, I think the Xbox One would have curb stomped the PlayStation in sales to the point where Don Matrick wouldn't have been fired, Game Pass wouldn't have been a thing, and Microsoft wouldn't have bought any of the studios they have since because they would have relied on third-party deals such as the Call of Duty stuff to push sales over the holiday, and they would have continued doing what they did over the 360 generation. So in the end, they would have won in sales numbers, but when it comes to first-party games, we wouldn't have had anything like we've had this generation. You wouldn't have had Microsoft work with Bethesda on things like Starfield or even mods for Fallout 4. I think that we would have had the 360 2.0, and that whole universe would have changed if they just kept Halo 4 for next year. I'm glad they didn't, by the way. Like, Xbox would have been a far more popular brand in 2025 if that had happened, but I think when it comes to the games we've had since, we've benefited, and we wouldn't have had Game Pass if it wasn't for that.
Yeah, I agree. I think in some aspects that alternate timeline would have been better in some regards, but I think overall the quality of life, the backwards compatibility, Game Pass, the mass empire, frankly, like the Roman Empire of gaming, Xbox now, and to where they're a pillar of Microsoft, period, no longer just a garage band part of Xbox. Their words, basically. Um, and like they're focused on quality and innovation. Like there are still stuff that irks us and makes us mad, but for the most part, like a lot more consumer friendly, a lot of other really good things that I think I would take what happened over that hypothetical alternate reality. That alternate reality is interesting to think about.
Yeah, just because like you look at Halo 4 and how big that was, and if you had Halo as a launch title, and like I think a lot of people would have people would have overlooked the whole DRM controversy if they had a Halo game. That's just my opinion, but like Xbox would have been a far more popular brand in 2025. You wouldn't see the hate that you'd see today, but you wouldn't see the games we have. You wouldn't see things like backwards compatibility wouldn't have happened because Phil Spencer got on that straight away, right? Basically, every first party game we've had after Sunset Overdrive happened because of Phil Spencer. And this isn't a Glaze and Phil Spencer section. I like to look at the alternate timeline type thing because it could have happened, you know? It could have been completely different because, as I was saying earlier on in the show, we used to get maybe one or two first-party games a year, but that Call of Duty deal back in the day for 360, that used to get them through the holiday. They, every Call of Duty bundle had, maybe a map pack, I can't say it, a map pack pass. That's a mouthful. And they were selling games like a Lego game would be sold with an Xbox alongside COD, but like I think we would have been looking at a completely different game and landscape if Halo, just that one title, was pushed a year ahead. But yeah, we'll never know because unfortunately we don't have access to multi-dimensional devices. Maybe one day, and then we can see if that's true. Anyway, everyone in chat has been amazing. Now, at the beginning of the show, huge technical mess up. For some reason, the window I use to basically control everything, see everyone in chat, and see what everyone else sees, literally glitched out. I'm guessing YouTube's back end has had some problems. It's unfortunate. It happens. Kind of have to deal with it. But anyway, everyone in chat has been amazing once again. If you've enjoyed the show, please hit like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel out, and especially when we have technical issues like this, sometimes, and I mean a lot of the time, YouTube doesn't actually share out the link or notify people that have that bell tapped. And by the way, if you haven't got that bell tapped, if you tap it, you'll be notified for future videos, live streams, podcasts, all that stuff. And when it comes to upcoming videos, if my plan works, I have 2 videos coming out by the next podcast. So bear with me. I hope everyone's had a good time. Logan, it's been great talking with you once again. If anything changes, I'll let people know on social media. The links to our social media Twitter accounts is in the description down below, as well as the link to my last video, which was the 20 biggest games coming out in September. Turns out, with 6 or 7 days left in the month, there's actually a few games coming out still. But yeah, if everything goes to plan, 2 videos out by the next podcast. Anyway, we are out, everybody. Hope everyone has a good day. Peace.